Too much light.
So, welcome everybody. Welcome to another session of Extra Bytes. And today we have one wonderful photographer. Our name is Sharmistha Datta, and somebody's mic, somebody's pet is sounding. Anyways, so before I hand over to her, let me introduce you to the panelists. So we have Dinesh Khanna sir, who will be moderating, and thank you sir for agreeing again to take this session forward. We have Sriranj, we have Maushmi, and thank you Maushmi for accepting the invite to be on the panel today. And I know that you have not been accepting anybody's invite, so it's quite a privilege for us. And yeah, there is Jayati, again, our regular panelist here. And thank you, Jayati, again. And we have a new panelist here today by the name Dave Haldar. And thank you, sir. Thank you for joining us on the panel. Now, giving you brief about Exploring Light. Exploring Light has been into the world of photography education from almost 2010 now. And we've been conducting workshops and photo tours all across the world, representing different genres. And during this lockdown, we decided to start a series, Extra Bytes, where we try and bring you the extra bytes from the lives of wonderful photographers, and hope to inspire everyone who's watching this. We have another panelist joining, Ruchi Ru. Okay, so Sharmistha has been into the ad world from quite long, and in between she did a project and actually started to shift and get attracted more towards photography. That she will tell more, but and I think after that one particular project, she decided to almost quit her job and follow her passion of photography. And she has done wonderful work since then. And thank you, Sharmistha, for accepting the invite to be the main speaker today. And let me also welcome Ruchi as a panelist now. So welcome, Ruchi. Can you hear me? She's still connecting to the audio. Okay. So anyways, so over to you, Dinesh sir. So you can just take it up from here.
Thank you, Jassi. Thank you for inviting me again. It's a pleasure. I've always really admired Sharmistha's work. And it's probably, I must admit that one of the reasons could well be that we have a similar background. We both from advertising, learned our basics there, learned our aesthetics there, learned our sensibilities there. And then both of us, came into photography, of course, at different times. I'm obviously many decades elder to her. But in terms of her work, she's far more sensitive and far more talented, and that definitely shows. What I really admire about Sharmistha is, one, her sensitivity in terms of the topics she has picked up and worked on, and I'm not going to talk too much in detail about them, because I leave that to her to talk about. But what she's also done is that she has carried forward unabashedly whatever her style is. And the style really comes from being a graphic designer. And she's let that, instinctively be part of the way she photographs. And I've always found that very interesting because, it's the kind of work she does is more towards a documentary. And there's a tendency for people to say, oh, but I'm now doing serious work and I must do it in a way which is serious. But she hasn't really gone down that path. She's let her own sensitivity and her own instinct be very much a part of her visual palette, and taken photographs which are from her heart, and which is where I think her work is very distinctive. And even though the subjects would be the kind you would see other documentary photographers and at times photojournalists doing, but she brings that very unique perspective and vision to her work, which is entirely of her own making. And that's where I think what we should be looking at as she now talks about her work in the next half an hour, 1 hour, or whatever time she takes. So over to you, Sharmistha. Thank you so much. Thank you for asking me to moderate this. I don't think I'm going to say very much more because you need to do all the talking yourself. And we got 5, 6 distinguished panelists here who know you and your work really well. And I'm sure they'll all want to pitch in with their own comments as we go along. Over to you.
Thank you, Dinesh. Thank you for agreeing to moderate my talk, because I really think that you probably understand my work really, really well. Sometimes I think you understand it more than I do about my own work. And many things that we, take for granted. Let's suppose, I mean, the thing that you said that, I bring to the work a little visual, the sensibility. Probably that is because I have spent so many years being an art director in an agency. So I don't even think of it. It just sort of, let's say, creeps into my work. So somebody who's seeing it from the side will be able to tell me more than I realizing it myself. So even though, after spending so many years in advertising, I was thinking, okay, this is it. I can't do this anymore. My sensibilities have changed, and I need to do something else right now. Maybe more stuff with more seriousness, if I may use that word. But I have to say this, that the profession really taught me a lot, as you must be knowing that, the kind of work that we would do, selling a particular brand, creating the strategy, making layouts and all that. So that, I guess, really formed the base for me to get into the kind of work that I'm doing right now. Do you want me to start presenting? I'm not going to talk so much, but I'm going to read out a lot of stuff because that's what I'm comfortable doing. So I'll just give a little short intro about how I feel, what my work is. And then, of course, then there'll be a lot of jargon. I'm going to read out quite a bit. So at any point of time, if you think this is getting too heavy, please raise your hand and then stop. We need to see more visuals. Okay. So shall I start?
Yes, please carry on. We're waiting for your visuals.
Okay. Can you see?
No, not yet.
Not yet.
Not yet? Okay.
You have to share the screen, I think.
Okay. Just a second. Okay. So I'm...
Yeah.
Is it visible now?
Yes.
Yes. Very much.
So I'm just going to give a little bit of, I'm going to read it out to you guys. In a world where everything is driven by logic, rational, and money, my work has been rather emotionally driven. I'm intuitive rather than being logical about my work. Be it any medium or any genre, I have to feel deeply about the subject. And I'm talking about anybody that I'm shooting. I'm not materialistic and hence often end up having the hardest time making a living out of photography. I love to tell human stories, of emotions, of their conditions, the way their lives are affected socially, economically, or even politically. Everything, every thinking individual, and especially the artists and photographers, aspire to do work that has a positive impact on the lives of people they portray. And I think mine is no different. And I can safely say that that's the reason why I took up photography actually. Every piece of work that I have done till date has been born out of an emotional pull. An artist often oscillates between supreme self-confidence and crushing self-doubt. Of course, the clarity I have now was not there when I had started off as a photographer, because I believe things only get clearer at hindsight.
Beautiful. Very nice.
Thank you. So I'm going to go to the next slide. And basically, again, a little bit of write-up, because you can also read it, but I'm going to read it out in any case. So this is my first personal project, Durga, and what led me to it, all right? I think I have talked about it a little bit before in interviews and stuff, but I thought it's still important to say it. Durga was born out of sheer despair and grief. The emotional turmoil and conflict in my personal life and the socio-political scenario in India, more specifically in Delhi at the time, had a lot to do with the kind of work that I was going to be doing for the next couple of years. Starting with Durga, which is a story about social discrimination against women, specifically the widows in India. This was the time when Nirbhaya incident had taken place. And like every sane human, I too was shaken to the core. I felt a deep rage and helplessness inside me. And the incident acted like fuel to the turmoil I was facing in my personal life. It forced me to focus on inequality between men and women, the oppression and subjugation of women by men prevailing through ages. The more I researched, by this time I had started to research on the subject. The more I researched on the subject, the more appalled I was. And finally, I decided to focus my story on the widows, which according to my understanding have been facing the most oppression amongst every strata of society. It did not help that I also came across Stephanie Sinclair's grim portrayal of the child brides of Afghanistan, in which she told the stories of violence and how little girls would self-immolate themselves just so that they could escape the wrath of their abusive husbands. In the year 2013, a chance visit to a shelter home in Vrindavan opened to my eyes to the world of a widow. What happened was basically, as I was researching, as luck would have it, a friend told me that I'm going to Vrindavan, would you like to come? And I was not thinking anything. I said, okay, let me go with you. And that tour, that visit became, I think, the turning point in my life, because I was so shaken up by that, but by what I saw, that I would keep going back to the same stories, the same visual. It kept playing in my head till I thought, okay, I have to work on this. And that's how, of course, I had taken some photographs that day itself. So when I came back, I was developing it. Then I said, okay, now let me just start on this. So I'm going to read it out. What I witnessed that day affected me deeply and will remain with me for the rest of my life. And I saw a dark room with more than a dozen beds lined up against both the walls. There were beds. On the bed sat old and ailing women in tattered white saris with blank look in their eyes. Who were these women? Where did they come from? Where were their families? Many questions had crowded my head that day. I tried talking to them. A few of them poured their hearts out and a few just didn't want to talk. They just said, okay, we don't remember, we don't want to talk about it. But what started out as a one-to-one talk that day urged me to go back to Vrindavan again and again. So basically, this is Meera Sahibagini Ashram. And this was my second visit to Vrindavan. And Meera Sahibagini Ashram is one of the oldest. I think you all must be familiar because I'm sure Maushami and Jyoti both have been there. So
Yes.
so this was my second visit, and I really was shaken up again to see the condition of the women over there. Of course, this was my second visit to any shelter home for that matter. And so I just kept taking their pictures. You know, wherever I turned, there would be somebody, wanting to have a, talk with you, wanting to share their stories. This was an old lady. She was sitting on her bed, and this is AIWC, another government-owned shelter home in Vrindavan. This is again AIWC in Tarash Mandir. And, when I saw her, this is literally what is their world, and so many of them, are from really good families, and they have extremely sad stories to share. I mean, somebody who has been just abandoned from home, somebody who's been driven away from home, somebody who was brought to Vrindavan and just left there. So that corner, that little bed is literally the world they are left with. All their belongings on that bed, hung on a wall behind them, or things stacked up inside their whole years of, the past years, that everything is in that square area. So I'm going to read out a little bit. So I wanted to portray the hypocrisy of a society that chooses to shower adulation on one woman and extreme humiliation on another, depending on who suits its selfish needs. On one hand, it worships goddess Durga, and on the other, it has no respect for an old widow just because she is dependent on her family and is looked upon as a burden on everyone. So instead of doing a photo story in pure documentary style, I decided to do pose shoots and give the story a bit of fictional touch. I got in touch with an ex-colleague and a friend, Rakhi Biswas. I think all of you must have seen her pictures by now. She's got the most amazing, expressive face. And when I was working with her, I could never think that I'll be finally doing a shoot with her. But when I thought of the story, there was no one else in my head but her. So I asked her if she was interested in playing the role of the main protagonist, a young widow, a young goddess who would be shown in the midst of every strata of society. The idea was to visually demonstrate that every woman was equal and worthy of respect, whether she belonged to an upper caste, wealthy family, or was a village girl, or simply an old and ailing widow. To my utter relief, Rakhi agreed immediately, and from here on started our amazing partnership and teamwork towards building a story that we would forever be proud of. Over the next few years, we shot in various locations in the colonial houses of Kolkata, especially at Shobha Bajar Rajbari, the streets and narrow lanes of old Kolkata, the narrow gullies of Vrindavan, and its derelict shelter homes, and of course the ghats of Varanasi. Meanwhile, I also got to know about, so this is all a process. I was shooting and at the shelter homes, and I was not familiar with Sulabh at that point of time. So I had shot one bit, then I had shot with Rakhi. And then I got to know, I think all of you would remember that incident. I think in 2013, Holi was celebrated for the first time in Vrindavan, and I think that was like a watershed moment for all the widows. So I didn't know about it, so somebody told me about it. So that is when I thought, okay, let me get in touch with Dr. Pathak and let me get in touch with the organization, because they are already doing so much of work, and it would be simpler for me to get access to these places. Meanwhile, I also got to know about Dr. Pathak, the founder of Sulabh International Social Service Organization, the kind of work his organization was doing for the shelter, for the welfare of the widows. Where the government had failed to do much, he had adopted hundreds of widows and was doing exponential work in terms of giving them moral, financial, and emotional support. With Dr. Pathak's permission, I photographed extensively at the shelter homes of Vrindavan and Varanasi. I spoke to many women living there and recorded their stories. And as I look back to the photos now, I have a deep sense of pride and gratitude that I came in touch with so many women who needed to speak out. They also taught me valuable lessons about life.
This is beautiful. So beautiful.
Meanwhile, Rakhi and I kept shooting on the side. So this was happening simultaneously. And it's surreal that things were not really connected, but they fell into place later on very beautifully. This is where Dr. Pathak had taken about 50 women to Kolkata. I think Jyoti was also there in the shoot. And they were all flown down from Vrindavan and parts of Varanasi to Kolkata. And this was the first time, I think this is 2014, this is the first time when, after so many years, these women had a chance to go back to the cities they came from. After being abandoned for 20, 30, 40 years, I don't know, even more maybe, they had the chance to go back. So this was, I think this was the station where I had shot the picture.
Can I ask a question here?
Yes, please.
They went back to Calcutta because I would imagine that a lot of them were originally from Cal.
Exactly.
But did they get to meet any of the families, or were the families informed, and did they want to come and meet them?
Yes. I mean, this was a very emotional and you can say surreal also experience for everybody, because their families hadn't gotten in touch with them ever. So when Dr. Pathak decided to take them to Kolkata, it was also there all over the news, that so many ladies are coming from Vrindavan and Varanasi and so on and so forth. So after so many years, so it became a huge news. I mean, it was all over the news. It was covered by every possible newspaper in the city. And I remember that when we landed up at the station, there was a huge crowd waiting to welcome them. Of course, some people were called, but many people had gathered just to see them. And many of them had their families waiting for them. And in the next few days, it so happened that their families came and met them, and they were like in tears, and they were saying, okay, please don't go back now. You have to, come back home with us. So it was.
You remember,
Yeah.
Sharmistha, you remember that incident where there was this lady on a wheelchair?
Yeah.
She was more than 100. I mean, she was around 105 or something.
Ranu Mondal.
And the most amazing part was that there was an electrician working where they were staying. That house that they were staying in North Calcutta, there was an electrician, a young boy who was staying there, and suddenly realized that she was his long lost grandmother. And he went back and got his family. I mean, ever since she went to Vrindavan, after that, she was lost to them. And nobody could trace her, find her. And suddenly the whole family was with her. I have one photograph of them in the tram, of her with the little kids and her family. It was so emotional for everybody.
Yeah.
Sharmistha, did you travel with them in the train to Calcutta?
I did.
Have you taken shots inside the train?
I have.
Okay.
I don't have it in the presentation, but for me, it was like, I didn't even think that that I would not go. I mean, I was there with them in the train, and where they were living. So I kept taking photographs. That goes without saying.
Must be a great experience.
I took so many photographs that I think some of them were saying like, "Ab rehne do, bahut zyada ho gaya." They didn't understand why I was shooting, but I'm a compulsive shooter, I guess.
Must be a great experience.
Yeah, indeed, Dinesh. That was really, really, as I think back now, it was. So this was a pose shoot with Rakhi in one of the shelter homes, and it is actually owned by a person called Rajveer Singh, and he was like the most amazing person. He and his mother and his wife ran the shelter home. He's still running it, and he was like so helpful. He's an advocate, but he was there with me for every shoot. Dr. Pathak had requested him, iske saath jao, or isko help her out.
Sorry, you said this was a pose shoot. What do you mean by that?
Posed as in...
to pose it, or had you missed something and you wanted to do it again?
I'm sorry, say that again.
I thought you said that this was a pose shoot, that you set this up and...
Yes. Like with Rakhi, because, as you have seen the earlier pictures, the idea was to show the young goddess in the midst of everyone. So you will see her in a Rajbari, you will see her on the street, on a rickshaw, you will see her amidst, local people on the street. And I also shot her at, in the midst of the widows.
Inserted into an occasion which is already happening, but you had seen something like this happening and you wanted to have a photograph like this staged also.
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah. So which is why, the story became a little fictional in some parts, and then it was a complete documentary.
Okay.
So what I would like to say is a little bit over here is that, apart from the fact that Dr. Pathak was, and of course I'm saying Dr. Pathak because, I have really shot extensively at his shelter homes, but there are other shelter homes as well. For example, the ones which are run by Dr. Mohini Giri. But I did not really shoot over there. So I just thought I'll mention it. Because
they are Mohini, those shelter homes, they don't allow to photograph. You can't work there.
Really? But I have seen pictures from there.
They must have it taken in some point in time with permissions and all, but
Okay.
I have gone there. Yes, it is not
Okay.
allowed.
Okay. So I'll read out a little bit. Fortunately for many widows who were adopted by Sulabh International, things had taken a better turn and they were starting to breathe a sigh of relief finally. Apart from the education and economic empowerment, Dr. Pathak had realized the importance of social acceptance of the widows. So banished from every joy, the widows had long ceased to be part of festivities and cultural events, because this was obviously something that was, kind of forced on them. So any kind of celebration was a matter of taboo. You're not supposed to dress up, you're not supposed to eat well, you're not supposed to do anything, no social gathering. So the first step of building their self-confidence was to, have them as part of all social celebrations, all festivals that they were deprived of. So in the autumn of 2014, Dr. Pathak decided to fly down 50 widows to be part of the Durga Puja celebrations in Kolkata, the one which I talked about. This was a watershed moment, and I was fortunate to witness this firsthand as I got to travel with them and record their moments of ecstasy. From there on, I have attended many of their celebrations, be it Holi or Diwali or Durga Puja. Every time it was a case of emotional catharsis for me as well, witnessing them breaking age-old taboos and enjoying themselves to the fullest. So I think this was in 2014, where I had gone there to, to cover Holi. And so this is, they are playing Fulo Wali Holi. So before the actual play starts with color and all, they play with flowers. And this is a beautiful thing to witness. This is just extraordinary. And I just keep connecting things to myself. I hated Holi. I literally hated Holi. And so after so many years, this was the first time I attended, maybe 20 years I attended Holi. So this was mesmerizing for me.
Yes, but they have stopped all that now. This kind of a flower thing that we saw in 2014.
Right.
I mean, that's the time I met you.
I think 2013 की जब हम मिले उसके बाद से सहभागिनी में तो नहीं हो रहा है. They are doing it in
2014 and 15. 15 was the last year that they celebrated there at Saubhagini. After that, they've shifted to a different place because of the Supreme Court.
They have shifted to Gopinath Temple.
The Gopinath Temple, yeah. So I guess, again, we were lucky, Jayati and Maushami, that we could capture those rare moments.
No,
absolutely.
And there was something that I captured, I don't know, you guys also must have, is the widows playing with watercolor. I mean, after that, they all stopped. I mean, I have in that one frame where they are playing, they're dancing, and there's watercolor, not the dry powder.
Yes.
And that's the time I can vouch for this, that Sharmishta is, hated Holi, because that's the time she really vanished when the watercolor was being poured.
They started filling up those, those water bottles and started throwing each other with that colored water.
I had quickly gone up to the
terrace,
first floor, and I was shooting from top because I'm very scared.
So all the photographs of those widows playing with watercolor, Sharmishta has is from top shot.
Top shot.
Nothing close up.
But have they stopped these festivities now, or I hope they still continue them even if they moved it to another location?
They are doing it. But they are not doing a lot of activities that they were comfortable in doing in their own, in that shelter that they live in. Yeah. There are a lot of little things that they've stopped, because this is another place, and all the widows will are taken there. And above all, it is filled with photographers now.
Yeah.
In 2014, when I went, there was, I could count 5 or 6 of us. Not more than that.
2013, even there was even not 5, there were 2 people.
And thereafter, I have one photograph of all of us standing there in one row, all the photographers. And there was hardly any of us. And they were more comfortable in playing with each other. Right now, they are comfortable. They are more focused on who's taking their photographs.
And they're posing all the time. They're very happy taking pictures, so they pose, Before it wasn't like that. They were within themselves.
They were very comfortable. They would enjoy those 2 years. It is 14 and 15 that I've covered. I really saw them enjoy this Holi.
Do you think that it has something to do with the commercial aspect or the marketing activity related to it, or
I think though they have kind of because of so much of publicity and all, I think they are more media savvy now. Those ladies,
this is exactly
they know they pose.
They pose is okay, but they are shifting to a temple and not.
No, that's legal. That's nothing to do with marketing, because there is a legal battle going on, and it's in the Supreme Court. It's pending in the Supreme Court. So nobody is allowed to get into that shelter where they live. You have to take a permission from Sharmistha, you went to take permission from this authority before going and taking that.
I had gone to the.
So this is purely legal battle that's going on right now.
Okay, got it.
I'll come to that. That's
right.
the anecdote there. So this was, I think, again, Diwali being celebrated, and we were on the other side of the river, of the bank, and we were, I think, perched on top of a boat, and we got some amazing pictures that day. This is Kesi Ghat, where so everybody had gathered and they had lit diyas. I think this is also 2015 or something like that. 14, I guess. 14, yeah.
14. This is 2014. Yeah.
So, so I think I had shot almost for 3 years continuously, off and on, festivals, this, that, shelter homes, Varanasi, Vrindavan, everything. And by this time, I was, by now it was already 2.5 years of shooting, and I had compiled this into a photo essay, which was able to generate a lot of curiosity and awareness on the subject. Friends, acquaintances, and complete strangers wrote back to me, overwhelmed by the story. The project found much love and appreciation, and was part of the prestigious Goa International Photo Festival in 2015. This is also where I met Mahesh, but for the first time. He was very kind. He saw my work and said, okay, would you like to send it for the festivals? And I said, okay, great. So that is when in 2015, my work was part of a huge number of very well-known photographers, and it was a big deal for me at that point of time. I also did a solo exhibition, which was inaugurated by Dr. Pathak himself and attended by scores of friends and well-wishers. So I have these pictures from that. I think Moshumi was there.
Yes,
at this exhibition. This is, I think, 2014. This is also, after all this, I also felt the need to, because I had shot so much, I just feeling this thing that I have to do a book right now, because there was so much, so many photographs, and, it is said that everybody has a book and a film inside them. So I was no different. I said, I have to do a book. But more so because I think I have an important point here to make. I think Jyoti was telling me, Jyoti, are you here? So she was telling me, we were discussing, and it was like, how do you think your work is really making a change? Is it really, really doing anything for the people and the people you're portraying, you know? Is it really helping them in any way? And I said, okay, I've not really thought about it, but you know, the mere act of doing a book was like putting everything together and taking it out to everybody so that people can read into whatever has been happening. And I, as you know, I have this bad habit of doing research for everything. So by this time I'd also started to study a lot on this subject. So I'll just read it out a little bit. Even though I had made a progress with the work, the need to compile this book kept pushing me further. And then during one of the shoots in Vrindavan, a woman asked me very sharply, why do you keep asking us for our stories? What good will this be? Will it really help us? Because there were many, many such occasions when people have turned around and asked me that, you know, okay, we have seen so many people shooting us to photographs, and you are also one of them. So how is it going to help us? So that really stopped me in my tracks. And I said, ye to sach hai. I mean, what can I do? And I realized that this whole project would be meaningless if I didn't contribute to the cause in some way. So during my interaction with the widows, many questions would keep bothering me, like, you know, why was such treatment meted out to them? Was it simply because the society was superstitious about the widows bringing bad luck? Or was there some other bigger conspiracy behind all this? So I did some more research, and to my amazement, what came tumbling out were unbelievable facts. And I could say this is a conspiracy behind their abandonment, tracing back to more than 200 years, and it had its root in Bengal. This is where everything started from the really, really wealthy families of Bengal, because, you know, nobody wanted to, after the, at that time, you know, very young girls were married off to really, really old men or even middle-aged men. And once they would die, you know, the property, so that the property doesn't go to them, to the young widows, the really wealthy families, in connivance with the priests, the Brahmins at that time, they decided, okay, we have to stop this. We can't let the money go out. So how do you do this? By throwing the girl out. It's very simple. So you know, this is what has been happening, and they were convinced that the girls were in any case not really exposed to much education, and they didn't have much, you know, in any case, too much of support in any case, because once out of their own maternal homes, they were just fending for themselves, and now the husband dead, so they were completely on their own. So they were really not in a position to defend themselves, say no to whatever was happening. So it was a conspiracy to abandon them, to throw them out, to stop them from inheriting the property. So everything comes down to property.
And this was just being presented like it was part of the tradition.
Yeah,
and the
it is like, you know, something. Yeah, sorry.
No, and this was being presented as the rationale was that this is our tradition and this is our culture.
Exactly. So this was like
given some kind of religious sanction rather than the fact it was purely exploitative.
Yeah, this was like a concocted thing that you just you know, topo on the society and tell them, okay, so the priests are saying, so this must be how it should be, and you have to follow this. And that's how it went on from you know, for years on end, you know. So with all that research, and I thought, okay, now I have to do the book. So I approached Dr. Pathak at Sulabh International Organization for financial support, because, you know, doing a book was a photo book was a very expensive affair. And I also approached many publishers, but I realized that, you know, obviously doing a paperback small books was far easier than doing photo books. For some weird reason, you have to do so many numbers, and the monies went into tens of lakhs of, so I said, okay, I can't do this, obviously. Who will give me so much of money? So I self-published the book. I did a little crowdfunding campaign where, again, my friends and a lot of friends were very generous, and they pooled in money, and that's how I raised some more funds. And then I did a crowdfunding campaign of course, to raise the money. And by this time I had also I had also put a team in place. So there was obviously Rakhi was playing the protagonist. She's been there with me from the beginning. And there was Madhupriya Chaudhary Sinha. She co-authored the book with Dev Jyoti. Are you here?
Yes, pretty much. Yep.
Yes. So Dev has been with me since I used to eat his head. Dev, I have to do this. So when I finally started to do the book, he wrote for me. In fact, when I was doing my show, he had written, oh, I don't have it. He has it. So sweet.
I almost arm wrestled her because I told her I need this.
Thank you so much.
No, thank you to you.
So Dev has written the introduction, and he has been there with me. I mean, when I was doing my first show of 2014, I think all the write-up, that's thanks to him.
No, thanks to you.
No. So then I got Shubinoy. I think you all know him. Shubinoy was, he's a filmmaker. He does documentary films, excellent documentary films. So I requested him, would you please do a short film for me? So he said, yes, of course. So one day we drove down to Vrindavan and we shot at the shelter home. So he created an excellent short film, an AV kind of a thing, which I used for my crowdfunding campaign. So there I had a little team there working with me.
Where can we see this film, Sharmishta? This short film?
I do have it, but I don't think I can play it right now.
Okay. No, but is there any other place where we can see YouTube or any place?
Yes, it is there on YouTube. It is there on YouTube. If you write Durga film, probably it will pop up somewhere.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah.
Or maybe you can share the link once this is done.
Yes, I will definitely do. In fact, I had the MP4 file, but then I thought, okay, I don't know. So this whole thing finally got over. The book got made in 2016. I think by that time, all my friends had left me because they all thought she's gone crazy. Dave was one of them. He said, listen, I can't do this anymore. I have written my part now. Don't bug me again in my entire life. You are mad.
I like mad people. I'll quickly sort of add in another layer. So I've sort of known Sharmishta since her agency.
Dave, could you speak a bit louder, please?
Can you hear me now?
Yes, well.
Right. Okay. So I've known Sharmishta since her agency days, when my agency days were behind me, and she suddenly gave everything up and she turned into an artist. And she was, playing with oils and pastels every day and every night, and churning canvas after canvas. And suddenly one fine day she tells me that, okay, I've quit that and now I've gone into photography. So I said, okay, I knew you were loony, but then now what do you intend to do? She said, pata nahi, tasveerein lungi. I said, great, that's a great idea. And then but I must say that, she was totally motivated and pretty much on fire and on course with Project Durga, as we would call it way back then. 2014, I wasn't in the country. I was in the UAE. I've lived there for about 10 years. She said that, listen, here is this concept, and I wanted to do something about it. So could you write? And yes, it was a dream project. Once when I had told her that any day you plan to do something, it's going to be your visuals and my words, I'm on. So I said, okay. So that's how the whole journey sort of began. Then I relocated, I repatriated, came back to India, which was when she was worrying about the book. I said, don't worry, give me the stuff. So she very kindly let me edit it as well, which is where some parts of my uh, conscience kind of completely burned black. The kind of stories that I went through as I was editing was rather horrific. These are things which we usually say that, you want to brush under the carpet. These are not the savory things of life. You don't want to know about it. But then, such is the dichotomy and such is the hypocrisy that, here you are celebrating the Shakti form and the woman form and all of that put together, the mother goddess. You say all of that, mother goddess, and yes, and then you just let her go and say, okay, you're no good to us anymore. You served your purpose, bye bye. And the entire sort of religious and zamindari cahoots, of course, and way back then, where Vrindavan was the stairway to moksha, to salvation, and hence everyone had to be sort of taken there. But I must say, the way Sharmistha sort of just went there and took pictures. I remember I had asked her for a picture. I told her, I said, you've got to frame me a picture and give it. That's what I want in return for what I have done. So she gives me a picture, a brilliant picture, but it is so heartrending that I still haven't been able to put it on the wall, because I tell myself even now, I cannot look at that face. I just cannot. It's too sharp, it's too stark, and it hits you somewhere. And I think the entire project, she's managed to sort of communicate that and sort of express the pain, the pathos, and the sort of duality that we have in our society, and pretty happily so, where we do not bother about a member of the family. It's just very, very, very painful. Sorry, I didn't want to hijack your story. Continue.
No, not at all. Not at all. No hijacking. I mean, you speak so well, Dave, that I'm always envious of you because of that. You put things so well. Really, that was really the way it is. That is, unfortunately, the way it is. I mean, we don't even think of such things anymore, no, like abandonment, because it's almost like they are blind spots for us,
Sure.
It's happening.
And if I can add here, for the benefit of anyone who's watching and for my co-panelists as well, I come from Kolkata. I was born in Kolkata, North Kolkata to be specific, Bagh Bazar, and in our Haldar family, the Ishta Devata is Durga. So we have the mother goddess, and she's made out of stone. The Durga Puja gets covered every year, across media in Kolkata. It's a stone idol, and therefore it does not have any visarjan. But I come from that sort of a family, and I have seen Durga Puja, and I've seen every aspect of celebrating the mother goddess. And the way Sharmistha has taken that entire story and interweaved it with the widows of India, I think it's very, very empathetic.
Thank you so much.
Sharmistha?
Yes.
You just said something about everything boiling down to property.
Yeah.
So can you just repeat that little part?
Everything boiling down to monies, yes.
They were abandoned, they were deprived of properties.
See, money being the main factor. Of course, negligence is also there. I mean, that's another facet, because and that goes for the old men also, the old men members also, the senior members, whether it's a man or a woman. But yes, for the widows, I think the main issue was like, we will not let her have that pie. So
This
plus
must be after 19, this must be happening after 1956.
This is 19th century, probably.
Not before 1956, because after 1956, the women started having share in the properties. Before that, by law, they did not have any share in the properties.
Exactly. So I'm saying this is really, really old. This has been going on for hundreds of years. So one can't really go back and find out where it started, exactly what day it started from, but approximately, yes. I mean, that's the...
depriving the women, depriving the widows of their property rights is 56 onwards.
Onwards or before?
After, because see, before they did not have anything by law. So there was no question of depriving them. They wouldn't in any case not have it. After 56, when they started having property rights and they were not given it, then is the question of depriving them. When they rightfully had something and they were not given.
Okay.
So that's the time when it starts.
It's also subjugation, no? It's also oppression. Like
it's very, yeah. And of course, everything all put together, that's one part.
So that's the book that finally...
There's one question I have.
Yeah. Ruchi?
Yes. So, I've seen a lot of your work, and I've seen the entire body of work, if I can say that. When you're documenting a subject which is this dense and this, painful, how do the aesthetics, what role do the aesthetics play, and the beauty, play in that documentation? Are you worried about beauty and aesthetics at that time when you're documenting such things?
Always. Like I said, that sometimes, thank you actually for asking that question. It's a very, very relevant question, I feel. And again, for me, I do this without being conscious of it, actually. And this, again, I owe it to my days as an art director. Because, obviously, I would always think of kind of show everything in its reality, but still my visual sense would tell me, okay, make it look aesthetical. So I guess I'm not really conscious of it, but it happens. But yes, I think it's very important also. I mean, that's where a realistic photograph, however it is, however grim or however it looks like, it kind of leans a little towards art, if I may say so, and not just be a photograph. It just becomes a little artistic. Did I answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
So basically by 2016, the book got published and I was happy, and I went and gifted it to Dr. Pathak and all these ladies, and it was an amazing day. So that really, really brings me to the end of this project.
This was a mix of color and black and white, this book.
Yes. Because, I felt that, the festivals I needed to do in color. There was no point in shooting wholly black and white. I just felt that's... Yes, Dinesh, you were asking something?
Sharmistha, Jassi this side. Yeah.
Yes, you wanted to.
Yeah. I just was going through this, and actually I'm one of the few who stumbled upon this project very, very late, despite having known you from some time now. And ever since I stumbled upon it, I must have gone through this at least 5-6 times, I must be honest. And it has affected me. And I wanted to ask you one question, and the similar question has come on YouTube as well from Himadri, that this project Durga, has it transformed you as a person, affected you as an individual, and what kind of impact did it have on you as a person?
Thank you for asking that question. I think absolutely. I mean, it has transformed me, and I owe my photography career this project. This is how I started. This got me into photography. People started to notice my work because of this project. So I owe everything to this. Plus, the way I got drawn to to the subject, to the women living there, the way I went, and the number of times it was like I was like a magnet to that subject. You know, day and night I would. जिसको कहते हैं ना सोते जागते आपको एक ही ख्याल आता है, वो करना है. आई यूज्ड टू थिंक कि अभी राखी के साथ कहाँ जाना है, नेक्स्ट कौन सा शूट करना है, कौन सा फेस्टिवल सेलिब्रेट हो रहा है, कहाँ जाएंगे, कैसे जाएंगे, आगे कैसे करना है, बुक कैसे करना है. For 4 years, 3.5, 4 years, that's what I did. I had briefly taken up a job in between because I had quit advertising completely by then. And so I was not really earning anything. There were no assignments at that time. Very small little assignments I used to do. So in between, I had taken a break and I was doing some, I was working for a publishing house. So, but in spite of being into that, it was like my life was meant for this project. I cannot probably explain it better than this, but it became my life. And then, of course, I think it changed me completely as a human being also. So many things that you take for granted, people, things, your possessions, relationships. I mean, so many things that they don't even occur to you. You start to take those things, you start to understand them at a much deeper level. In fact, one widow I had met in Varanasi, I think the Nepali shelter home in Varanasi. You know, she had a very, very sad life, and the whole life she had worked for her 2 children, and her husband was in Nepal. She came to Delhi. She worked as a cook in someone's house just to raise her 2 sons. And once, though, unfortunately, the younger one died of some ailment, and the elder one, he got married. He was living a good life, but he never thought of getting her back. Can you imagine that? So I had met her and I was talking to her. I was holding her hand and she was crying. She was crying. It was like, I had to tell many people that I met, many widows I had met, they won't share their stories because they felt it, they didn't want to, because it is so humiliating for somebody to admit that, the son, daughters that I have raised, they don't want me back. But she said, I want you to know this. Please write about it, because I have gone through so much pain. And she was crying and I was holding her hand while she was talking. Then she said that जिंदगी में वही आप यूज करिए जो आपने खुद कमाया हो, अपने दम पे, किसी और का पैसा मत यूज करना कभी भी. So ये जब बातें, and she has followed that through her life, not a penny from her husband. Her husband never came to support her. Her son never took her back. And she was crying and she said that जो भी मैंने अभी करा है, and whatever I am, I did it on my own. And I take these as huge lessons in life. And I try to follow that as much as I can. So yes, I mean, I think it really.
Thank you. That's wonderful. Yeah. Thank you.
Stories like this always, puts you in this kind of psychological or mental aura. जहाँ सिर्फ और किताब निकालना भी, I mean, publishing a book is not a small job.
Not a small job, certainly not.
You need to put, I mean, with every book, whether it's a video or anything, in your next book, you'll realize it needs a lot of involvement, emotional, funds, everything. Time, copyrights, corrections, from the day you conceptualize something until then you have the book on your hand. I mean, it's a huge process. It takes time, and by the end of the day, end of it, you always realize, oh my God, kitni samay, kitni deep involvement really. So I can understand looking at you, especially this sensitive subject that you have been handling, must have been quite a experience for you, of course, emotionally.
Yes, it was. I'm really, really grateful for this project. But also at the same time, I think I got into a huge circle of depression and anxiety because of this. You know?
It happened.
I think many people say this, that when they do a really, really grim film, actors or even a director, when they do something really grim, or somebody writes a grim novel, it really affects their entire being. So it took me a long time to get out of it, and people said, you are just too obsessed with the subject, now time to get out of it. But it is a natural process. You can't snap out of these things.
And this thing recently, in fact, I was shooting at the Delhi riot, and it's the same effect had on me. I couldn't eat, I couldn't sleep, I was very depressed. कुछ अच्छा नहीं लगते थे, कहीं जाना पसंद नहीं, I don't want to go anywhere. And this is precisely the reason in fact, another reason why I was, not interested in coming. There was nothing, खुशी की क्या है जो वीडियो में आए. I was not being able to convince myself after shooting there for 10 days, 7-8 days, I think. It was too grim, and it really affects you very deeply, very, very deeply.
And especially because we are all artists, we are sensitive people. So it's somewhere. And otherwise, what is the point if it doesn't affect you that much? So both sides, it's good and bad. Good that it affects you. Not everybody can tell such stories. Not everybody will be able to empathize with the grimness of it all.
Empathize is the word. Yes.
And also, till the time it doesn't absorb you, that subject, I don't think so any artist can really produce that body of work also, with so much empathy. So I think,
yeah.
Okay, so I think enough grimness. I will try and do a lighter subject.
It was wonderful. It was wonderful. Really enjoyed.
So I'll go out of this. Stop share.
Yeah, stop share.
Oh, okay. Okay, no, I don't think. Do you want to see some more grim pictures? I'll quickly. No, I don't want to show this.
Yeah, this is nice. What?
No, but that's a nice series. I love those pictures.
You want to see? Yeah. Okay, they've been overexposed. So basically, it's the stories like this. One fine day, I landed up in Vrindavan, and of course, those permission problems had crept up at that time. So I didn't know. So I landed up, and they said, "Okay, you can't shoot because you don't have letters of permission." So, and my mom was there with me that day. तो मैंने कहा ये तो बहुत गड़बड़ हो गया, अब क्या करें, डिप्रेशन में चले गए दोनों. So both of us decided, अच्छा चलो, let's just चलते हैं, केसी घाट चलते हैं, it's Yamuna and it's beautiful and all that. So we went there, और वहाँ जाके the thing is that अच्छा हुआ कि हम वहाँ गए, because it's one of the most beautiful places, sections of what do you call Vrindavan. And my favorite area, of course, because I don't like all the hustle, bustle, bheer, bhar. I love this. And the greatest thing about these ghats is that there's some similarity. It looks a little like Varanasi ghats. Varanasi Ghat looks a little like, there are so many small UP towns, which are built next to the river bank, Ganga. And they look exactly like this.
Yes.
If you just see the picture, you won't be able to tell ye kahan ka hai. Same for Bengal, Dev, because, there are so many towns and cities in Bengal which have similar ghats. And I have spent a lot of time of my childhood summer vacations in Bengal. So for me, this was like nostalgia. So my mom, of course, so हम लोग गए वहां पे, and it was very it was so breezy, it was overcast, it was raining, and I find these two priests आराम से बैठे हुए हैं on the bank, and I said, can I take your picture? He said, ठीक है. So that's how and this series with
This
I
is
think,
so beautiful. I love this one. Seen it many times and
yeah, too many times.
Yes.
So that whole day that I spent, this is of course not from there, but next day finally got, I went to, I said, nothing doing, I am here, I will take the picture. I went to Mathura and I met the magistrate. I showed him my work and I said, I need the letter of permission. तो उसने कहा मैं लिख के दे रहा हूँ, अभी आपको जरूरत पड़े आप मेरे पास आना, मैं कितने लेटर्स चाहिए मैं लिख के दे दूंगा. He was very, very polite. So came back and I shot the full story. But again, that day I got the most amazing pictures.
Can I ask you something, Sharmistha?
Yes.
Did you plan it before the book was happening? You will shoot everything in black and white, or it is just that while after seeing the images you thought it's better I stick on to this particular medium? कि मैं black and white में ही दिखाऊं.
I am biased towards black and white. I think black and white.
Okay.
So और उस वक्त मेरा color पे इतना hold नहीं है. I think Dinesh sir would know. मतलब I was not confident about color at all. Not so that I still before, believe.
When it was in an initial stage, before the publishing of the book, when you were just shooting and you didn't know the end result, whether it will come out in a book or in a story on a magazine or
right,
social media, I don't know. So आपको हमेशा you were always very sure that this is going to go for the viewers in black and white only, in monochrome, right? Yes.
So मतलब शुरू से ही मेरे दिमाग में I always wanted the book in black and white. It's just that I would never shoot in black and white. I'll always shoot in color and edit in black and white. But then when I was shooting Holi, of course, and I thought, nay, I mean, I can't have these colors in these photos in color in black and white. So obviously those sections were in color. But if you see metaphorically also, black and white say I'm moving towards color, so a little bit of positivity coming in. So that kind of
the state of mind is also, these pictures are also depicting your state of mind at that point in time.
Yeah. So after the festivals, I think all the photographs till the end, they're all in color. So half and half.
Also, if I may add a little word here.
Yeah.
You felt a certain grimness in the situation and in the life condition of the subjects you were photographing.
Yeah.
And somehow that probably the starkness of that comes through much better in black and white.
Absolutely.
And color would definitely have, made it look too real and taken away from that grimness, which I think the language of photography fortunately allows you this kind of variation. This is part of the language. It's like writing serious prose in a way. You write heavier prose in black and white, and you write lighter stuff in color. So that's definitely one part of it. The other is that there's also a sense of timelessness here. This is, it's just, almost bordering on the historical, mythical. There's something you can't believe that this is actually happening. That the society actually does this, practices this. So it's in a way, in the dream nightmare kind of situation, where you almost stripping it of any kind of reality and saying, oh my God, really, is this how it's happening? And historicity comes from black and white, because as we know that technically also photography started in black and white and only for many decades was available only in black and white. So this, in a way, if you look at the pictures on the screen right now, these could well be from 1950 or from 1910 or from 1860 or from 1840. I mean, it's nothing there which gives away their age. And the moment they exist in history, it's just like one continuum. I think that's what black and white has, afforded for this particular project. Really.
Absolutely.
It's both the emotionality of it and the historicity of it. I think it works both ways.
Now, Sharmistha, are you still continuing to think or produce in black and white, or you have moved on from that initial year of creating pictures in monochrome? Because there are a lot of artists, women photographers, who stick to that monochrome presentation, and they continue to do, and they're producing wonderful wonderful images and everything. So where do you stand right now on that particular? Because I see a lot of portraits you are doing in monochrome again, and they're fantastic. I mean, so बहुत खूबसूरत है. But what is your plan, or how you are, taking your documentaries or portraiture, whatever you are doing, in black and white or in color, or you have moved on from? Because I started with black and white, but I moved on to color quite a bit in recent years. So if this is the case, I just wanted to know.
Sure. So I think black and white will always be my favorite, color in the language of photography. But given a chance, I'll do everything in black and white. But it has its limitation also, because if you are going to be doing photography professionally,
commercially,
in the sense that if you want to do assignments, the client doesn't want black and white. Especially with documentary photography or any genre you pick up, they want realistic photos and they want color in their pictures. So I guess what happens is and in the process I developed a liking, and my love for color gradually grew as I started to take color pictures. But that said, whenever I get a chance to do portraits, I'm thinking black and white.
Now I know, because I had been seeing your work. So I wanted to know whether it is a gradual thing, or you are still sticking on to what.
So I think the next thing is, Maushami, I'll this grim subject. That's my mom, by the way. So I will end this
Did you use any tool to, while handling monochrome in your book? It is just desaturation, or, just black and white, that's it. Did you any tool to, enhance or beautify? As you have said, you also believe in a lot of aesthetics, the tonality, the texture, or, the highlights and the shadows. Did you use any tool to, to get that particular result for your book?
Tool or tone?
Tool, software tools, I'm saying. Tool in a sense, software tools.
Photoshop.
That's it.
That's it. Nothing else. And this work is like very old. You can see the pictures are very old.
I was seeing that. I was seeing the shadows and highlights and stuff like that. I was looking at the technical point of view, and then
so I would say they're not technically there. Because I was so focused on the subject.
No, it doesn't matter.
And these are some of the pictures are from 2013. To 2015. So, I had a very basic camera. I was not even thinking of the camera. I was just shooting and I was editing to the best of my knowledge.
But stories like this really doesn't matter. I'm just asking for my curiosity, to satisfy my curiosity, because,
No, just Photoshop, nothing else. Just Photoshop.
Or is it a digital print, or these are done on offset, the book?
Digital.
For
offset, you have to have a minimum 100 copies, and I think there is a cost factor, minimum amount you have to spend.
So this is the digital. I'm very curious, because book is something, publishing book is something very close to my, the kind of work I do. But that's why I wanted to know whether it is a digital print or offset printing.
All of it is digital, and I only print it now when someone wants it. So I don't have any copies with me anymore. So I just whatever number of copies I initially even printed were the ones that I wanted to gift back to Sulabh, to Dr. Pathak and the women, and then the friends I had to gift, and anybody wanted. So very limited copy. Plus I never had funds.
These days there are wonderful, very advanced machines in the market. I mean, digital reproductions are fantastic.
Yeah, yeah, and I think the cost has also come down a little bit.
Yeah, yes.
Okay, so shall I share a little light to a light part?
Going for work. I think I know what Jassi. What is the time frame? We are at 5:20.
I think we will. We have another 40 odd minutes.
Okay.
Sharmistha, you need to pace yourself accordingly now.
Okay. Okay. So if that's the case, I'll
step in and kind of speed you up in between.
I'll drop a few things, but I'll share the portraits.
That is, I think you.
No. Carry on with whatever you plan to.
Yeah.
Maybe you just need to do it a bit faster this time.
Okay. Okay. Oopsie. This is not what I want to show. Can you see now?
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, and please make sure we want to see everything you intended to show. So don't leave anything out except that just so that you can
and otherwise
40 minutes, please.
Okay. Okay. So these are again portraits that I keep doing off and on. It started off as just shooting out of just fun, but later on I also got a few assignments here and there. So this is what I like to do. This is Vidushi, who I've shot quite a bit. And this is our friend Ruchi over here. I think all of you have seen. This is
they all or have you
I can't hear.
Can you?
It's echoing, actually, a lot of echo going on.
Echo.
Yeah.
Yes, Dinesh, you were asking? You saying?
It seemed that a few of the images which you just showed were probably, are all of them an actual location, or have you added backgrounds to them?
No, so some of them are edited. Like this one is at Payal's house.
This location, yes. No, but it seemed a couple of the others earlier might have.
Yeah. So no. So this is an installation at the back in the background.
Okay. All right.
This is a real
so
picture.
To use the installation and the graphicness of the installation and the fabric beautifully together. So that's just one thing.
That is her
very sculptural.
Yes.
Very sculptural, the entire effect.
Yeah, I think Ruchi and I got very lucky that day. I mean, we just found the right background, the right color, the right light and everything. It just fell into place. And this particular photograph I'm very fond of because it's just a little abstract also.
Yeah.
So these are, this is also one of the oldest pictures, portraits I had clicked of Payal, and one of the oldest assignments. This recently I shot her family, everybody in the family. And this is again my school friend. I shot her picture as well. And at this juncture, I would like to say that I don't like to make my portraits very sharp. I don't like my photos sharp at all. I like them a little soft, a little out sometimes.
Surreal, little, poetic, little dramatized.
Yeah, little arty, because I just don't like too much of sharpness in my picture. That much I can tell.
Poetic, very poetic.
I don't know if it's old age or not. I find that extra sharpness hurts my eyes.
a wonderful way to put it properly.
Don't tell the camera companies. But these are very beautifully and aesthetically composed and executed and presented. They're so wonderful.
So do you do editing yourself, or there's a team who does it for you?
No, everything is me.
So this editing.
Me, the whole team.
This one is so good. And most of these images you've shot using the natural light, or have you used some kind of strobes or flashes?
Natural light. All my portraits, I try and shoot them, outdoors. I try and shoot them. Even if I'm shooting indoors, it will be natural light. I don't like so much using lights. I don't, Jassi, don't like to use too much a studio setup. But of course, when you have to do a commercial shoot, I have shot pictures in studio also. But these that I'm showing, they're all natural light. This is also, natural light. This is the series that I did on a man's journey from, materialistic world to spirituality. So again, you will see the photographs I have not very sharp.
What did you name it? The
Urban Sadhu.
Urban Sadhu. Well, this is part of a series, but I put it in the portraits category.
Good.
Okay, so those were portraits. Now I will share with you.
Can I add something here, which Sharmistha might not add, but me being one of the persons who's posed for her 2-3 times, is that Sharmistha is such a wonderful photographer. She'll just call you and she'll be like, I want to shoot. Just dress up. So she'll pick you up. She'll take you to some weird location, and you'll see this confused person who doesn't know what to do, but then flash of a moment, tea inside her, and she'll be like, let's start. And then you see her shooting, and then you are at her mercy. She will make you walk, she'll make you do things, but the results would be mind-blowing, and that's what Sharmistha is for me as a photographer. I've always seen this crazy woman, who doesn't know what to do in the first instance, but once she's on, she's crazy, and she does things wonderfully.
She has an artistic bent of mind, and mostly artists are all mad people. They
I think
to do things in a more unplanned way than
it just
light, sound, everything.
One spark and she's on.
She has her own madness, and that's how she produces such beauty.
We survive in chaos.
Yes.
If it's normal, it's not happening.
Boring. Normal is I always say normal is boring.
No, if I may, just use a borrowed statement. Tarun Khiwal, who is a fabulous fashion photographer, as you all know, in one of his talks recently, he said that when he gets to a location, he has no idea what he's going to be doing, and then he waits for the photograph to come to him.
Yeah.
Yes.
And he feels that they just go through him. And I thought that was such an eloquent way of saying it.
Yes.
And to me, Ruhi seemed to be just saying the same thing in different words as about Sharmistha's way of working. She arrives at a place, feels its energy, absorbs the energy, and then that gets converted into an art, which in her case happens.
Spontaneous. This is absolutely spontaneous, and so that's why she gets the energy, absorbs the energy.
Yeah, and I think Ruchi understands this really well because she's mad herself. Thank you for calling me mad, Ruchi, on public space. Thank you. Now you'll have to shoot more mad pictures of me.
I'm always ready,
Hoping to see some more madness in coming weeks. Both of you
Okay, I think as moderator, I need to tell you that you need to move on.
Yeah, okay.
We can't keep looking at a white screen for so long.
No, but you guys are talking.
At least go back to the previous image otherwise.
Yeah.
So we will move forward now.
Yeah, please.
Okay, so now I'll show you this work that I did in Kashmir. It is for Sapedia. This is a grant that I got, and we were supposed to shoot stories of people, you know, stories on culture, on art, and the way people live their lives. So I picked up Kashmir as my subject. Everybody was asking why Kashmir. It's such a dangerous area, but you know, I was always intrigued by how people live. You know, they literally are living floating lives because you know everything is floating. The farms are floating, the houses are floating. The way they the way they live, it's all floating. There's no.
Shramishta, your voice is breaking up.
My voice is breaking up. Can you hear me now?
I think at my end it is perfect.
Yeah, that's better. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so so of course I chose the Dal Lake, and this is what I got to shoot over there for 3 days of absolute madness, absolute bliss. I always wanted to do the flower market, the vegetable early morning vegetable market in the Dal Lake, and my wish was granted because of this grant of Sahapedia, and that's how I got these pictures. This is a temporary market. It just everybody assembles at 6 o'clock in the morning, and by 7
they all. So you were there for 3 days.
3 days,
and you could do all this.
Yeah, and I was living also in a houseboat.
And which month was it?
This was, I think, in June. June 2017 or 18 probably, in June. Yeah. And the good part was everything was green.
Green.
You know, it was
green.
green.
The light. That's why I'm asking you, Ki, which month was it? Because light is wonderful.
Yeah, light was very beautiful. So this guy was making the boats, the shikaras, and they apparently also make the houseboats. So amazing. So this is a farm, small farm, again floating, where they cultivate, and they, you know, everything is in-house. And they sell also. And this is what these are, you know, lotus leaves, nadru.
Nadru.
Yeah. This guy looks like Dinesh Khanna.
Yes, very much. I was about to say this.
And one of the oldest handicraft stores in that area, and beautiful things he had. Sad thing is, because of the disturbance in that area, they're not able to sell much. So these are the families that I shot with. Beautiful, loving, absolutely wonderful people. This is Rainawari, where the Pandits used to live, and now it's in a very bad condition. This is a family near Rainawari I shot with. This is how children go to school. This is where I was staying. Next houseboat was where I was putting up. The night market. And that's a top view of that area.
How did you take this shot? From a high rise or?
From a temple. There's I'm forgetting the name of the temple where you have to walk up 200 steps. Go to a height, and that's how you get the entire view. These are all houseboats that you see from top, and shikara, little shikaras. Okay, so that's the end of my presentation. I don't want to talk anymore.
What?
This was so wonderful. I mean,
Jassi, 20 minutes left. Jassi, 20 minutes still there.
As an aside, I've never heard you speak so much.
In fact, yes, this is what I told Jassi, ki she won't talk much. No,
I've known her for so many years, 20 years plus.
I'm really happy that Jassi could, really manage to make you, so beautifully, so elaborately. And
I remember even before I spoke to Sharmishta, I remember having was on phone with Maushmi, and I said, "मैं सोच रहा हूँ Sharmishta को लेके आऊँ talk पे." Long time back now.
Yes.
And when I was planning these kinds of sessions, and
What I told you, Sharmistha, she has been planning for a very long time.
वो नहीं बोलती ज़्यादा, वो नहीं आएगी, वो ना, she's very delicate, she's very she will not.
I have never heard you speak, and I'm very happy. I know you as a friend for so long now, and I'm familiar with your work. But it is always a pleasure to go back again and relive the journey together.
Yep.
Through those images. I'm as passionate as you are, and this was wonderful. I mean, I really, really enjoyed it.
But Sharmistha, in the morning, remember what I told you? Just start, and then you will be with the flow.
Yes.
You won't even need to read.
Yeah. I always have this problem talking. I don't talk. I mean, I am incapable of talking so much.
No, you
Everybody
think so.
knows that. But
You think so. You did it today.
Just see, it was not a conspiracy. Now you know. Admitting it herself. But I'm happy that you came out of that, and presented, come up with this beautiful presentation.
Yeah, it
Wonderful. And I love what I love, because as I have told you, as I've been attending a lot of sessions of women photographers recently, I see a clear demarcation here. And there's a set of photographers doing brilliant job, but the image is not giving me enough information. I go back, I go to the narration, read it, spend some time, and come back to the image again to correlate. And I see another set of women photographers, the image with the visual narrative itself is so rich. The subject is beautiful, the elements are in right places, beautiful play of light, emotion, textures. I think you fall into the second category, and full-on aesthetics, emotions, light, everything. I mean, composition. So I have, as Dinesh ji has cleared ki advertising mein the, to wahi se bhi bahut kuch. A lot of this experiences, a lot of this aesthetic has been built up over the time because of your past experiences with graphics and all. But these are visually so strong. I of course, I'm curious. I'll go to the text as well. But I'm very. बाद में भी हो सकता है. I'm happy with the visual itself. I'm loaded with the visual, the satisfaction. I'm absolutely satisfied looking at the visual itself.
thank you.
It is something like that. So
अब आप talk करेंगे इसका मतलब. You will talk. जैसे ये लिख लो.
I'll come back to her now, and I'll come back to her online only. And, yeah. So there's one question that I have, Sharmistha, and this is regarding your journey and foray into photography. You were in ad field earlier, and my question is that were you actually contemplating getting into photography, leaving ad world and getting into photography, or it has something to do with the project Durga, which influenced you to in a way take that all important step in your life, or instead of or, and has it actually reaffirmed your faith and belief in the decision that you've taken, and you are happy that you've taken that decision? Because
very important, especially these days. Yes.
We also saw you say that you are not business minded, so you find it at times difficult to even make a living out of photography. So how do you feel now after so many years of having left? So there are multiple questions in that.
You have pura journey. No, see, Jassi, the thing is that I think everything is destiny. You're destined to do something. The strange thing is in life, you have certain beliefs that this is what you will do, but destiny is something which just brings you back to doing what you're destined for. I was a student of art. At one point of time when I was, I had finished school. So my dad said, okay, art, do you want to go to Shantiniketan? And you want to do fine arts? Because I would always paint. I was fond of painting. So I said, "ठीक है, let's go to Shantiniketan." I went there and I just could not relate to the university because it was too slow for me, you know. So I said nahi. Plus, I was also attracted to advertising. So Delhi College of Art got through, and I did not even apply in another college. I decided College of Art only, and I want to study advertising. So did those 4 years, got into advertising, spent so many years, Rona Dhona, of course, all that happened. But at the back of my head, I always thought that I will come back to painting. I'll give up advertising. There is a time frame, 10 saal, 15 saal. Uske baad I will give up everything and I'll paint. And I tried doing that because obviously that phase of my advertising life was getting over. I could feel that I relate nahi kar pa rahi hu main. So I took a break and I was sitting at home and I was painting. Then I thought, maza nahi aa raha hai. Kyunki somewhere you are you thought you're going to be doing painting, but you have become a communication person. You have spent so many years in advertising. You are you have been taught to say things out very clearly to a certain target audience. So art was, again, it didn't work for me. And by this time also many things were happening all at the same time. And as you look, like I said, that things become clearer in hindsight. After so many years, I could see that my life was taking a different turn. The fact that advertising mein itna problem hua, I couldn't survive. In my personal life, there were so many problems happening. I was in a different state of mind. I had to quit my job. बहुत सारे problems चल रहे थे इसके बीच में. And I had started shooting a little bit. Suddenly, I found a tool which gave a voice to what was going on inside me. That frustrated artist, the communication, you know, the professional art, you know, the advertising professional was wanting to say a lot of things which she hasn't been able to say for so many years. You know, all that unhappiness, it all came tumbling out through the first project. I was my own boss. I was picking up the subject that I wanted to talk about, the most important subject that needed, as a woman, I felt that this is it, I have to talk about it. So everything was building towards it. And then once I had started working on it, there was no going back, you know. And so here is also a very important question. A lot of young photographers, I mean, aspiring photographers, they say that, okay, you know, what do you suggest? You know, should I, you know, take up advertising as I mean, photography as a subject and just go whole hog into it? And I tell them, no, be cautious, you know, because it is very challenging. Initially, when you have just passed out of college, it is going to be a challenge, more so because, you know, this is such a competitive field. And so do this on the side. See if you really like to take up photography on the side, do it. And because I had the chance, you know, to gradually get into this space. So I say, no, don't do it. See if you are comfortable, then give up your job or then go whole hog into it.
Education. And has to finish education first.
Yeah. And and then again, it's a very individualistic thing to do, because, you know, there are some people I know who don't want to do anything. They are hell-bent on being a photographer, and come what may, they will do it. And I also tried doing that, you know, parallel thing of kabhi, you know, photography thoda sa slow chal raha hai, so let's jump back to being, to going back to, you know, being a freelance designer all over again. But I realized that I was getting batched up from both the sides. It's like getting burned from both the sides. I was giving 100% to both photography as well as my, the other jobs that I was doing. And I was not being taken seriously. So the only way to go about it for me was to jump into it. The time was right to do this, somewhat may, So that is, and I'm not unhappy about it. I'm very happy I've taken up this thing because this is it. This is me.
So what's next then, Sharmistha? Are you going to go ahead with these documentaries or see, I'll tell you something, as I'm also a documentary photographer. So in documentary photography, there are two different categories. One, which is where you are hired by someone. It's kind of an assignment because it requires fun, travel. And over the time when you are doing a story, you're going back to that station, the environment again and again, you get to emotionally get attached to that particular, storyline. So there's an emotional investment too. So when you are doing an assignment, there's a brief, you do your own research, you're bang on the job, you do the images, and then you submit it. Yeah. You are out of that here because then the people who has hired you probably will decide, what is the.
Rashmi, can I interrupt you for 1 second, please?
Sure, sure.
If Sharmistha can stop sharing a screen so that we can see everyone properly.
Sure.
Yeah, Thank you. Yeah, please carry on. Sorry for that.
Sorry.
तो आपको पता होता है कि destination or destiny of those images क्या होगा, because then the people who have hired you, they will particularly put up wherever it is going to be finally. But sometimes we do it for ourselves when we feel like we feel passionately about a story and we think ये बाहर आना चाहिए, we should take it to the viewers, and we do our own research and get into that shooting mode or whatever. But having said that, documentary photography requires, as I have told you, सबसे पहले travel, then time, and then funds, and then that emotional part of it. How do you manage that? How you are going to then? Just say Durga is over now. You will get into something else very soon. So how do you sustain yourself in this?
Yeah, so see, we of course have to find a balance between doing some assignments that you will do because it is also building your portfolio, and it is also something that will fetch you money, and there are certain it will give you the leeway to work on your own projects. So yes, it has to be a balance, and I mean we all strive towards achieving that perfect balance.
As far as your but as far as your personal projects are concerned, and do you think about its final journey before you conceptualize कि ये मैं कहाँ publish करूँगी? It in form of a book, social media, magazines, or you just get into this because you feel very strongly about it, and जो होगा देखा जाएगा, that kind of an What is it in your case? We are all photographers with individual style of workflow. We do it according to our the way we want it to be. But what is your case in this?
I think the ideal frame of mind is being a little bit rational and a little bit emotional. But मेरे case में तो rationals कहीं होते ही नहीं है.
Sweetly said. I mean, this is. I love this. I mean, it's frank and it is how you are.
I am the exact opposite of logical. So I'm always like, something hits me. Like, for example, the riots, this time, I was like, again, the same thing was happening to me. I was feeling extremely, tense and all that. And I was seeing those pictures and I said,
I mean, it was really.
I have to shoot it. So तब मुझे पता ही नहीं था, and I have not done any photojournalistic kind of work. So I contacted the only photojournalist I knew. I said, मुझे shoot करना है, help करो. So it's very sweet. तो कहते हैं आ जाओ, चले जाओ. मैंने कहा safe है, मुझे तो डर लग रहा है. कहते हैं हाँ चले जाओ, कोई बात नहीं. two more people. So I was lucky that day, you know, कि उस दिन चले गए. I shot, I think I've shared the story once that, you know, पूरा मतलब I think it was the fifth or sixth day of the riot, and उससे पहले I was just seeing the pictures, and one fine day my mind like वो होता है ना.
How many days did you go there?
Huh? Sorry?
For how many days you were there?
Yeah, so I was there for 3 days. First day I went there, shot with them. फिर 2 दिन बाद again I thought नहीं अब तो फिर जाना है वापस. तो अब कोई नहीं था जाने के लिए. So I called up the only contact. I had taken his number and I called him up, and he recognized me immediately and he said, "आ जाओ आप डरो मत. You just come." So I went there and he took me to all the places, all the mosques that were burned down, the schools and everywhere. And Dinesh, I have to tell you this, that all my life I've believed in these connections, you know. I go completely by gut feel, by my intuition. And I feel कि ये करना चाहिए, ये नहीं करना चाहिए. जबकि पता था मुझे कि इतना risky है. और फिर भी I went because I trusted that guy. Because I had met him only once, but I felt कि नहीं, जाना है. And he turned out to be such an amazing person. Like he took me pura din, like for 4 or 5 hours he was continuously with me. I said मैं थक गई. He said नहीं चलो. So he took me, and just 2 days I have shot with him again. So 3 days of shoot. So yes, I mean, completely, there's no rationale behind. And I have hardly ever done this kind of work. I just knew that I had to do the story. There were so many questions. I mean, I saw people all around me, you know, judging a certain, you know, community because that's, but I said, no, I mean, friends, people I've known, college friends and everybody I'd known for so many years, I could not relate to them anymore. What they were saying about the riots, and I said, nee, I mean, I have to see it myself. So which I did, and I don't know. I'll be working on it. I will be doing more research on the subject, and I don't know where I'm going to go with that. So I started it. So that's how normally all my personal projects start. Good if it's. I hope something really good comes out of it.
Good to know. I mean, thank you for answering this, because
as long as there's an emotional tug for you, and it's, you know, there's a hook which has drawn you to it, and it's you know, that's how it works really. I mean, you're not a documentary photographer, a photojournalist, like you rightly said.
Yeah. If the
you are more into, you know, interpreting a situation and then visually expressing about it, and therefore it's not really time bound. It's just more in terms of how you use the medium of photography to write about whatever you feel. And I mean that seriously. So, you know, you write visually. That's how it is. Yeah. And which, for instance, is what, you know, I know for a fact that a lot of people in the documentary field felt that Durga was staged. And I used to argue with them that, of course, it's staged. I mean, so obviously staged. So what's the big deal? You know, you have to understand that when an artist is wanting to, and I'm going to keep using the word right, because I really started believing that people have to understand that we also write with photography, because it's the same. And today people are actually the problem is as you know, and that's where people have to understand that this is a language. And that's where you use the language. You know, you are actually speaking about a subject with your own language.
Yes.
And within that language, for instance, some things you want to say in prose, so you say it in color. Something you want to say it in poetry, so you use black and white, and the various other idioms which photography allows you. You know, shadows or a hard, you know, a lot of shadows have a certain kind of tonality and a certain kind of expression. Very bright pictures have a certain different kind of feeling. That's how you get to be a more sensitive writer with photography.
As long as the viewer connects, I mean, really, anything else?
No, but Maushmi, no, that's no. I don't want to think of the viewer first. I have to have confidence in the viewer to be able to be smart enough to then read what I'm writing. But if I'm going to write according to what I think the reader knows now, then the reader is not going to exercise his or her mind to come to what I'm saying.
No, I'm not saying from that perspective. What I'm saying is, whatever her artistic creations are, as long as viewers are getting her emotion after the publication, not before, that means you are a success in that case. That means you have been able to do that. That means then technicality ये वो कुछ matter नहीं करता है. आपको जो emotion पहुंचाना था, वो पहुंच गया है. People could connect to the stories. People could connect to those images. People could really read those emotions. And I think that's the job well done.
And I would even say that is none of this. It is not for me to the viewer or the reader be able to understand what I'm saying. It is for them to come to it with their own experiences and their own maturity and their own sensitivity. I can't take responsibility for that. But yes, I have to take full responsibility for what I am saying.
Yes.
Period. That's it. Thereafter, once your story goes into social media, into a magazine, into a newspaper, you're not going to be sitting next to the viewer or the reader when they're seeing it.
What their expressions.
Then it's up to them to read it the way they want to. So therefore, don't even take responsibility for it. You can't.
No, why? And my point is, very well said, Dinesh sir. My point is that when we say taking responsibility, are we admitting that we did some mistake and we want to take responsibility for that? There's no mistake. There's
no mistake. Yes, this is a good point, Jassi.
Yeah, why are we even getting into that mode of explanation and taking responsibility for what?
Yeah, for what?
It's an art that I created.
Own language.
What I do,
with if I may say this, I think that's what we can take. We can take that liberty with our personal projects, because that is almost like creating your own piece of art.
Right.
And you want the viewer to, of course, understand it, but and you want them to understand your work. You know, more than that. And I guess that's where it differs from the commercial work that we do, the assignments that we do.
Absolutely.
Because there, you obviously there is a directive that this is what you have to shoot. This is what you have to convey mostly, this is what you're talking about. This is the thing you're covering. So it has to be
you have
clear.
to start from what the viewer is expected to respond to, and then create a communication which fulfills that.
Yes.
So it's very clear. And Maushmi, not for a moment am I suggesting that, be irresponsible about what you're saying or not be concerned. I'm saying pour all your concern into your personal work to the extent you take responsibility for it. And after, it's for whoever wants to experience it.
And I think this is with all art forms, even if I'm cooking something, I have to be very fond of that particular spices, the aroma, the how I want to cook it and present it. उन सामने वाले को वो स्वाद आए कि नहीं, it's the next step. First, I have to be, very, because all art form, whether it's painting, art, sculptures, one has to be, or I have been an actress, so with the script, I have to be convinced first with my flow of work, and the viewership is the next step. Viewership is the next step. So, this is it. And I think you did a wonderful job. And were we convinced ho jaye tab to bonus hai. Kehne ka matlab, you made a movie and it is a blockbuster. Why not? I mean, why I would say ki, I don't want that cake. I just want to be the artist. No, I want the cake too. I mean, make no mistake. I want to do my work. I want the cake too. Both sides.
Okay, Sharmistha, anything more you want to add? I think you had a very lovely session.
No, I think I've talked a lot today.
No.
In the records, I guess. So anyone else wants to say something? I'll just aram se. I'm very good with. Aap tareef karo. Anybody wants to say something positive? Like Ruchi said, I'm mad. So please mad mat bolna mujhe kuch अच्छा bol do. Then we will.
Mad is a positive.
Yeah, positive.
Best way.
Artist being mad.
I'm just pulling her leg. I'm pulling her leg. You understand? Because I want to make her do one more shoot, that crazy shoot.
Which she already committed to. But then I think in this forum, I think everyone will get this. I mean, we really need to have our lives dedicated to madness, and that is something that I'm constantly trying. And I it's something that I would want to happen manifold in my life. It's difficult, but then when someone I know and when we're a close friend like Sharmishta, when she's doing something and which is completely dedicating her life to madness, somewhere I feel happy. There's poetic justice. That's all I wanted to say.
I mean, I'm so privileged and honored to know Mr. Dev Haldar, and because Dineshji, Jyoti, Sharmistha, Jassi, Sridhar, they're friends. We meet on and off, on tours and other stuff while shooting, otherwise. But आपको मिलके बहुत अच्छा लगा. It's
Likewise.
an absolute honor कि आप आए, and such a beautiful.
I'm really happy.
And it's a blessing for Sharmistha. You had been around, and the way you guided her. I think she's very lucky to have you as a friend. This is wonderful. Very rarely, this combination happens, and they're the lucky ones who, have this together.
He's kind of a sounding board for me, off and on, and I hope I too am one for him. So
that I could sense how it is. I could read it between.
Likewise.
So I'm very happy that for both of you that you have each other.
Thank you.
In creative field, it is a lot of time. It's a teamwork. You alone cannot produce or cannot do a lot of things all by yourself.
You have to create a tribe.
Yes. वो बहुत ज़रूरी है और जिसको मिले तो बहुत ही किस्मत वाले. I think I'm very happy today. Thank you.
Thank you.
Great, thank you so much, Sharmistha. It's been really wonderful, understanding how you approach your subjects, how you get involved with them, what you want to say about them, and very importantly, how you allow them to speak to you and change your mind. That is to my mind really is what a sensitive photographer is about. And especially when you're doing personal projects, if you are going to, beat them into shape in terms of what you had preconceived them to be, then I think the eventual loser is the photographer herself or himself. Let it flow, let it pass through you, like Tarun said. I think that's what I really feel about the way you approach your work and the kind of work you do. Congratulations.
And continue to go ahead with those aesthetics. I mean, they're rich, and then they're beautiful, and I think photography is a visual medium. So as long as they're beautiful, they attracts, that makes you happy looking at it.
Thank you. Thanks to all of you for being here. I had the most wonderful talk, and thank you, Jassi. Thank you, Dev. Thank you, Maushmi. Thank you, Jyoti. Thank you, sir. Dinesh. Sir.
Pleasure.
Thank you, Dinesh. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you,
Wonderful platform you created and all the fabulous talks you're organizing. Thank you so much for that.
Yeah, thanks, Jassi.
Thank you, Sharmistha, for such a wonderful session. It was really great. Thank you, everyone. Dinesh sir for continuing to accept our request to moderate session. And thank you, Jyoti. Thank you, Haldarji. And special thanks to Maushmi. And I'm going to have a separate level chat with you for another session.
We'll do something very nice. Right?
If she agrees to let me moderate that talk, I would think of it as an honor.
Fantastic, sir. Fantastic. We will do that.
I can only fold my hands.
For her to come.
I can only fold my hands in gratitude. That's it. You have been always so supportive. I always say this. So supportive.
Okay. So thank you, everyone. It's been a wonderful session and another Sunday evening spent very well. My further days as a photographer are not going to be the same. I know that because what you see in terms of whenever we come across some documentary photographer or having somebody having shot the kind of documentary work, which is phenomenal, it really changes your point of view as a photographer, and it changes your mind and soul, everything. It transforms you like crazy. And thank you for everything. And bye. Take care.
Bye.
Take care, guys.
Yeah. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.